Welcome back. Let's try this again. SABC management is going ahead with retrenchment. This has been confirmed after the news head Phatiswa Magopeni said the process would be stopped to consult with staff. Let's get more information. SABC board chairperson Bongumusa Makhathini joins us again. Thanks for your time. Apologies for that poor connection. Let's hope that we can get this right now. So these retrenchments are continuing, you were saying?
Certainly, sir. Board operate based on approved and validly adopted board resolution. And the board took a resolution mandating management to implement the retrenchment plan, and that is going ahead.
So what happens from yesterday to today between staff and SABC management? Because, of course, we saw people very emotional in the newsroom. We saw them confront the COO as well as the news head, and that's why we saw a change in decision.
How procedurally things work, I'm quite aware and I understand the sensitivity and the emotions that might be very high, but it is important that even under those circumstances that we uphold our editorial policies and also respect our employment contracts as employees. So, board took a resolution mandating management to implement Section 189. And a board has not set a new set of information that must be given for a board to consider that information and then review a decision if the information in front of them persuade them otherwise. But I do want to indicate also that what we are doing is part of a turnaround strategy that was approved by the board. So it's not something that we just decided to do out of the blue. Secondly, the 3.2 billion rand that we got, salaries were excluded from it. So, in essence, we were given a condition to cut our cost. And if you talk to National Treasury, even today, they will tell you SABC must cut its salary bill. And when you look at the projections from where we're sitting, we're projecting a loss of about 1.2 billion rand come end of this financial year. Yeah. And government has already indicated that there is no more bailout for us. And we can't continuously be perpetually bailed out. At some point, we've got to implement our plan and turn around the SABC from a financial point of view. And to be honest, that's all what we are doing.
But here's the problem, right? The SABC is in this financial mess because of decades of looting at top management. And now you're asking for staff to pay for the failures and corruption that happened at the top.
I hear you. And the retrenchment is not the only thing that the board has approved and worked on. There's a whole lot of things that we have done as a board to try and address what went wrong in the past. We worked very hard to implement the public protector's remedial action. We're almost done with that. We've worked very hard to implement SIU investigations. And SIU is working hard to try and help recover some of the monies that we lost. So it is not correct that we're not attending to the legacy governance failures of the past. We are. And this is why people will talk a lot about our legal costs, because we have embarked on a litigation process in an endeavor to try and recover some of the monies that were lost. So there's a whole lot of things that are done. And it's not only employees who will be affected. Top management also will be affected. One of the options in the list of what we approve is a salary freeze across the board.
Why didn't management take a salary reduction? Because you're asking workers at a lower level and medium level to actually reapply for their jobs and, of course, take salary cuts. So why didn't top management take salary cuts instead of saying to us that we're going to freeze our 5 million rand a year salaries? Because that's exorbitant as well.
When you're looking for talent and you want to employ people, they will be working somewhere and there will be a contract of employment. And you can't just willy-nilly change those agreements that are in their contracts without necessarily following the necessary process, so to speak. So all I'm trying to emphasize here is that everyone is affected and will be affected. But at the end of the day, it is the responsibility of all of us to make sure that the SABC is sustainable. Because if we don't, it will collapse.
You know, this argument you're making about contracts being given to people in top level so you can't decrease their salaries is absolute rubbish, because you're asking workers who have been at the SABC for decades to reapply for their jobs and take salary cuts, but people who you have on contracts for 2 to 3 years can't do that. Where is the common sense, the empathy and the humanity in what you're doing? Because it seems like this board is not taking any of that into consideration.
We are. The report that we approve has got a number of options rather. And in those options, it does include all levels of the SABC. But at the end of the day, you need leadership to lead the organization. So at the end of the day, we went to the market looking for the executive team to lead the SABC. And they've done that job. And this is where we are. You can already see that SABC is turning around. The work that we are doing is informed by the turnaround plan that was approved by the board. So they've put a comprehensive plan in place, and they are working hard to implement that. So at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we also fair to everybody. And the truth of the matter is, when we approved the retrenchment as the board, we did request management to minimize the impact on people. And when we started talking, it was about 600 people. We're now down to 400. And even with that 400, some of those people who are affected may qualify for other vacancies that exist within the organization, and they will be absorbed in those. So certainly, there's been consideration to make sure that the impact is minimized. But the other aspect to this, Labor Relations Act dictates that you must have consultation over a period of 60 days. We've had the engagement over 120 days. We've had more than 4 meetings which are prescribed by the Labor Relations Act. We've had 16 meetings, and we continue to engage. Even the engagement yesterday, it's management that is willing to engage with employees and see how best we can work together to make this work.
Okay, can you tell me how much money you're going to save with this retrenchment process and salary reduction process?
The board resolution that was approved on the 4th of June spoke about a reduction of 700 million in the salary bill. And that's what also is contained in the National Treasury documents, or rather the GTEC report, which guided the process of the turnaround strategy development.
And can you tell me what SABC directors and executives and senior managers are actually being paid in the past financial year? Because I've seen some suggestions online that it stands at 41 million rand. Is that correct?
I don't have the numbers in front of me as we speak, but I can come back with that detail to you because I don't want to speculate.
Yeah, you see, the comparison I'm trying to draw is that you have a handful of top management earning multi-million rand salaries. According to this, 41 million in total across top management. But you're trying to get rid of 400 workers and staff who are middle to low considered in that regard, or that bracket. So why are you not starting at the top? Why are you not reducing salaries at the top? Why are you not reducing your top management team in trying to get the SABC right? Because if you look at your numbers in news, which is what we're talking about here most importantly, it has increased. And those ratings have increased because of the workers on the ground, because of the journalists who put in the long hours and time and effort to get the SABC on air, not because of your top management.
Certainly, we appreciate the efforts of our employees, journalists, crew, producers, and presenters. We appreciate the work and how well they've worked courageously to represent SABC. That we are proud of. The notion that the retrenchment will only affect lower level is not correct. All levels at SABC will be affected by the retrenchment process.
So what's going to happen with your news head who went against what you decided at board level?
That remains an operational matter. As board, we don't get involved in those kind of issues. So I'm sure executive team will have a discussion, and then they will report back to the board.
Is it true that she's been asked to resign if she doesn't retract that statement?
Like I've indicated, sir, that's an operational matter. I'm not going to be speculating and talking about rumors. I have not seen a report from management as yet, because the whole thing happened yesterday. which was very unfortunate, but we are waiting for management to deal with it and then come back to the board with a report.
What's the way forward for the SABC when there are threats that there'll be blackouts in the next couple of days?
We have to continue turning around the SABC, and part of that journey involves managing our costs tightly and increasing our revenue and working hard with all interested parties, with the minister, with parliament, and with our employees to turn around the SABC. We cannot fold our arms because there is a threat of a strike or a court action. When we embark on retrenchment, it is a painful process, and there will be a number of options available to unions and staff. But it does not mean that now we need to freeze and not do what is responsible and expected of the board. The minister has requested us to explore other alternatives, and as a board, we will soon have a meeting to discuss if there is any other thing that we did not consider. But you'll appreciate that this process has been going for over 2 years now. And it's a notion that we just jump into it is not correct. There's a whole lot of other things that we've achieved. Our audit opinion has improved, for example. Our losses have been reduced from over 1 billion to about 744 million to about 481 to 480 something million, 484 million, and then this year we had a loss of about 500 million. So that's a trend that shows that SABC is turning around.
Yeah, look, I don't have time for you to boast about how the board is turning around the SABC. I'm talking specifically about people losing their jobs after working there for years. I'm talking about top management still earning fat cat salaries while you're trying to get people who don't earn anywhere close to them. And I'm also talking about the integrity of the SABC and how we saw a mismanagement of funds for decades, and now people at the lower level are suffering because of that looting. So I ask you again, if you've shown any empathy to those people we saw in the newsroom crying on television. South Africans are sympathizing. We know we don't have any money from government to waste on the SABC any further. So what else can you consider, especially now since the minister has asked you to do so?
Like I've indicated, sir, that we work as a collective, as a board. So we will have a meeting as a collective to look at everything. But the notion that nothing else has been done, I've already explained to you. We've implemented the remedial action by the public protector. We've implemented the SIU investigation. So the notion that you're pushing, that nothing else is being done.
I'm not saying nothing else has been done.
The money that we lost is not correct.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the years of looting has now resulted in workers being retrenched. At one point, the SABC was profitable. And then looting happened, mismanagement happened, bad decisions by Claudia Motsoeneng happened. And now you're sitting with this, and all of those people who earn their fat cat salaries are no longer there, and the people who are working at the SABC after all these years are facing the consequences of their greed and looting. That's the reality, isn't it?
And I'm sure you'll appreciate that this board was not part of that, and the executive team that we have were not part of. These are South Africans who have also sacrificed and availed themselves to try and turn around the situation. So let's also appreciate the effort and the sacrifice by our employees, everybody who is involved. So at the end of the day, it is painful, and I understand it, it's painful. But at the end of the day, what then must we do? Must we fold our arms and do nothing and let the whole thing collapse?
Well, good luck. We'll see what's going to happen with the SABC. That's board chairperson Bongumusa Makhathini.